Farming Sunday is brought to you in association with Farmers Guardian, agriculture's national newspaper. Coming up on Farming Sunday.
We've got a global population increasing and we in Europe, here in the UK, Britain, need to make sure we produce as much food as we can.
You now don't need to be a computer whiz kid to actually use this sort of stuff, and that I think will get better too.
The family have been farming on the Cotswolds since about the 1600s.
We could be here, Alan, for days talking about TB and how I would like to strangle the ministers. But
what would you say the big issues affecting your committee and what you look at the moment? What would they be?
Big issues at the moment are, one is the overall food situation in the world, really, where you've got a global population increasing and we in Europe, here in the UK, Britain, need to make sure we produce as much food as we can, because if we don't, we will buy from developing countries and the people in developing countries won't have enough food. That's the simple equation. And I think at last, the world is waking up to the fact that agriculture, farming is essential, and good quality traceable food is what we want.
How much do you discuss and how much do you think about the security of supply?
Very much more in the European Parliament do we talk about security of supply and food security generally, because you've got basically farmers and politicians from all across Europe, 27 countries, coming together. And of course, there's countries like France, the new countries like Poland, Bulgaria, Romania, all very agriculturally based. And sometimes here in Britain, we forget the importance of farming and agriculture because there isn't such a big percentage of the population actually farming. But we still bring in between 5 and 10% of GDP by the time we put the processing in place. So it is essential.
Can you describe what's happening in terms of sheep tagging currently?
Yes, the Commission have come up with the idea by January next year we will have to electronically tag our sheep. Now, this is a huge problem. We have over 30 million sheep in the UK alone. France has got 8.5 million, Spain about the same. It is very much an issue where farmers are worried that they don't think the technology is there yet. They think the cost of it is very expensive. Also, those farmers that farm in extensive areas where perhaps I've been to Scotland recently, where those hefted flocks, the ones that stay, there's no fences, they stay in the area. Now, if they round them up, they probably only round up about 90% of those sheep if they're lucky. What those farmers are worried about is if overzealous DEFRA officials arriving on the farm and saying, where are those 10% of sheep that you have not rounded up? And of course they're down a gorge, they're in ravines. They cannot manage in this way. So lots of problems there. Also, when you herd the sheep together, there's still a certain amount of collision between the different numbers as they go through a sheep race. They are getting better, but it's still probably between £3,000 and £10,000 for the equipment. You still have to put the tags in, and don't forget, a lot of sheep farmers are your older farmers, and a lot of them are going to say, this is just one step too far, we may give up. And what do sheep do? Not only are they good healthy meat and good farming, but they also look after the hillside, good for tourism, good for the environment. We really have to be careful before introducing this system, and I've been doing my very best to try and stop it. The trouble is the Council of Ministers agreed a couple of years ago to go ahead with sheep tagging, and I have got a really big problem to stop it, and we need Hilary Benn to raise it at a council meeting and get it stopped. I think that farming is good for the future, because I think by 2050 we will have between 2 and 3 billion more people. We're 6 billion now, they're talking about 9 billion people in the world. We're going to need food, we're going to need farmers, we're going to have to embrace all the technologies we've got in order to produce that food. So I think it's good for farming. What we've got to be careful in Europe is that we don't forget that agriculture is also a business, and there's an agriculture market as well. So when we have the wonderful CAP sometimes, it's restricting farmers from doing what they need to be able to do, and that is produce food. So we've got to look after the environment, but we've also got to work to the marketplace, produce high quality traceable food, but allow farmers to get on with it. And that's the bit that I worry about Europe sometimes. They're far too inclined to control more than they need to. And that will be the challenge, because you see the French have seen this global meltdown in the financial system to say, oh, well, the Anglo-Saxon model has finally been destroyed and what we need is controls of everything. No, we don't. We need control, but we need also to be able to give farmers the ability, using the single farm payment, to decide what's right for their farm, what's right to produce on their farm, so that we can have good, healthy production for the future.